and welcome to our new Eukanuba Stories podcast series. That's quite a mouthful. Today we're talking to champion breeder, judge and dog show exhibitor Phil Davies, discussing how he transformed who he calls his ugly duckling Pixie into a fabulous Crufts Best in Show finalist. So we're really excited to have Phil talking to us today. So thank you to you for joining us as well. It's great to see you today, probably at home watching this on lockdown. So I hope you're safe and well. Both Phil and I are incredibly grateful for your time, and we hope that by taking a little bit of time just to carve out some time in your day, you will learn quite a lot from Mr. Phil. So before we chat to Phil, I thought it'd be nice to let you know what the Eukanuba Stories podcast series is all about. It's pretty self-explanatory. We'll be talking to real experts in the pet industry, letting them tell you their stories about experiences and challenges they've had along their way to success. And we're letting you come along and listen to it all for free, which is fabulous. We'll be chatting to experts in breeding, animal behaviour, veterinary science and grooming as well. And we'll be asking them literally just to share their stories with you. So you can get some real lovely knowledge, inside experience from their world with dogs and cats. So if you're here to learn, you're in the right place. So welcome. My name is Kelly and I'm the veterinary manager at Eukanuba. So let's introduce Phil. And well, what can I say about Phil? Phil's latest triumph really is his recent success with his pet dog Pixie, who many of you will have seen back in March, which seems like a whole world away now, since lockdown, who was best in group at Crufts before going on to actually participate in the prestigious Best in Show Crufts final, which was phenomenal. He has won Best of Breed at Crufts a staggering 5 times, even winning 3 years on the trot with lovely Chelsea. He's a top breeder, experienced judge and all-round top man. We all love Phil. A breeder of numerous champion dogs, having both bred and owned many top terriers both here in the UK and over the pond in the US, which is pretty fancy. Having won the terrier group at the world famous American Kennel Club show, The Garden, held at Madison Square Gardens in New York City. So if that's not impressive enough, he's also bred numerous Welsh Terrier champions, taking his dog, the Butler, to top Welsh Terrier, top puppy in 2019. He's also co-bred Wire Fox Terriers, numerous Kerry Blue Terriers. So basically Phil is Mr. Terrier. He's also an ex-boxer, and you might be able to see behind you some photos of his hobby. So I have to say I'm genuinely honoured to call him a friend of mine as well. I'm quite glad about that, given that I wouldn't want to be behind one of his right hooks. So Phil, really lovely to see you today. I'm intrigued to learn more about your connection that you have with your dogs. You know, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Hi Kelly, and welcome to everybody that's listening. I guess like most people, you know, my dogs are my pets, first and foremost. I'm probably more a pet person than I am an exhibitor breeder, although I do like that side of the hobby. I like to produce something, see it through from a puppy into junior, into adulthood, and hopefully become a champion. Of course, that wasn't the case with Pixie. She was one of only 3 dogs I've ever purchased in my lifetime. And I saw her litter brother for the first time at over in Dublin at the St. Patrick's Day show, and
you were in Dublin for St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, I was over in, it was just St. Patrick's Day dog show, the championship show. Okay. So they're a big kennel club show. Actually, I was over there with Mike Bloxham, who you'd know, and was my boss at the time. We were there working, and the Kerry Blue exhibitor's ring was right in front of our stand. So I got the opportunity to watch some of the judging, and I just happened to be standing at the side of the ring, and in come this lovely young dog, and I was really impressed by it, and I said out loud to myself, "Oh, I like that. That's nice," or something like that. And there was a guy stood next to me who clearly knew me. I didn't really know him at the time, And he said, "Oh, you like that, Phil?" We got chatting. He said, "Oh, Little Sister's better than that." And I said, "Oh, is she here?" No, and you know, we went from there. The story, he happened to have a photograph of her on the phone, on his phone, showed me the photograph. I instantly saw things I liked about her, and he then called the current owner of the dog and said, "You know, this bitch is for sale. Are you interested?" So that's how I came across Pixie. Lo and behold, after the conversation with the current owner of her, they brought her. That was in March. They brought her to National Terrier, which was in April, the first weekend of April. Got her up in the box. Bear in mind, she had travelled, you know, over on the ferry. I don't think she'd been anywhere in a car before, so she'd been sick and she didn't look her best, I have to say. But instantly, as soon as she hit the floor and I set eyes on her, you know, that was it for me. Yeah.
Okay. And you said you saw things you liked. What do you see as a breeder? Because I know you breed, but you didn't breed her, you bought her. What is it you saw when you saw a picture of her on someone's mobile phone?
Well, she was on she was on a grooming table, and they clearly, I don't think that photograph was current, given she didn't look like that when I collected her. But her outline, her head in particular, was stunning. She had this big, long, flowing neck, and you know, she was like an ugly duckling, to be honest with you. And you know, she had this lots of space between her chest and the floor. She looked tall. There was things that you'd look instantly and say, "Oh, I'm not sure about that." But she was a baby. You know, she was at that time probably a 6 or 7 month old puppy.
Okay. Okay. And she, just so that people know the breed specifically, she was a Kerry.
She was a Kerry Blue Terrier.
Yeah.
Okay. And what I didn't realise at the time, I knew nothing about breeding. This was all purely by sight of a photograph. Probably not the best way to buy a potential brood bitch or potential show dog. I didn't intend to show her at the time. I was purely buying her to breed to a dog that I thought, you know, they would go well together.
Okay.
What he didn't have, she had. So I was looking at it purely from a breeding point of view at that point in time.
Okay. When I was watching Crufts in March, beginning of March, before the world went crazy, I remember watching you trotting around the arena at Crufts and thinking how well behaved she was, and all the dogs at Crufts are, apart from the one that did the poop at the end. But they're all walking around so beautifully. How long does it take you to get a dog to work so well, so cohesively with you? What's the secret? I mean, for those people that are out there listening to this that just have a dog as a pet, how do you get your pet to behave so well?
Well, no different to anybody else. I think you try and get into the dog's mind a little bit and see what makes them tick. You know, what they likes are and what their dislikes are. So some dogs are food orientated, and some dogs are toy orientated. Most Kerries I come across, and most terriers, they love a squeaky rat or a squeaky doll of some kind, or a squeaky
Even more than food.
Even more than food. Yeah, even more than food. They're not Kerries graze when they eat. They're not real scavengers, as Welsh will eat a bag of food if you left it there for them, whereas a Kerry are a bit more reserved and a bit more fussy, if you like.
Are you talking about Welsh people in general, or Welsh dogs there?
Well, Welsh people are generally like to eat, but no, I'm talking about Welsh Terrier dogs. So they're quite different in their approach to how you would train them. Welsh Terriers are easy to train with food. If you had a piece of chicken or a piece of meat of some kind, sausage or something, they will train to that. Whereas Pixie likes the squeaky rat.
Okay.
So once you know what they like, then you practice with them in the garden, down the beach, when you walk in, have a little stop, have a little train, have a little practice, let them have the squeaky for a little bit, take it back off them, put it in your potty. It's just like anything. It's discipline, it's training, it's keeping on top of it, it's doing it regular. to the point where they love it. They like it.
Right.
They are looking for it. They want to do it. It's enjoyment for them.
And you mentioned discipline. So is that you're talking about your discipline? This is something you have to spend time with them every single day, routine kind of thing. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I do. I think discipline comes from my amateur boxing days, where I had to be disciplined to train, even when I didn't feel like going training. My dad would get me at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'd run before I go to school. I'd come home. I'd go training in the evenings. I think my discipline I instill in my dogs came from that, and
Right.
and they love that. They love discipline. They like to be. It's a game with them.
Right.
It's all part of the training.
Yeah. And it's interesting because obviously you're a expert in dogs. You're a breeder, an exhibitor, and so you're at the top of your game in the dog world. But I guess if you're talking to anyone, whether they're professional swimmers or boxers or whatever it is, writers, artists, you often hear people saying they get up early in the morning and start. So I guess that's a great tip for people that are watching this, whether it's dog breeding that they're wanting to get into, or showing, or anything, that it's, you've got to get up early in the morning and start your day as you mean to go on.
Absolutely, and I think I'm no different to any of the other experts that are out there, and I don't class myself as an expert actually, but I've been very fortunate to be able to learn off so many great people in the UK, especially. We have some great dog breeders, professional handlers, and I'm luckier than most, whereby I work for a food manufacturing company, and a lot of these people come on the stand, and you listen to them talking and watch them handling, and I picked up so much off. I'm not going to name names, but they know who they are, and we have them across all 7 groups. It's a massive learning curve, and I learn something every show, or every time I go to a dog show, even off people that are just coming into the business.
And you've been doing this for how many years?
Well, my grandfather, my mother told me that my grandfather showed Welsh Terriers in the 1920s. And
Wow.
when I was first born, I spent a lot of time with my grandparents, and they had a small holding, which is a little farm. And my grandfather bred and showed Welsh Terriers. So before I could crawl, I had Welsh Terriers around me. So I don't remember that clearly, but my mum said I was always, when they wanted to take me from the Welsh Terriers, I never wanted to leave. So I was always around dogs, and I guess that was instilled at a really early age. But I was interested in dogs growing up. Of course, the amateur boxing took a huge chunk of my life. And when I finished boxing, in my mid-20s, I was active at the local shows prior to that, and I used to go and watch the dog shows. And I had a Kerry Blue, the first Kerry Blue I ever bought, but he wasn't a show dog. I bought him purely as a pet, and he used to come running with me. He was a fantastic dog. And then when I finished boxing, that's when I decided, no, I'm gonna take up this seriously and see what I can do.
Because quite different worlds, quite a masculine, macho world of boxing to dog breeding, which maybe not quite so masculine. It's quite. I don't know. You tell us. Is it very testosterone fueled boxing, and then dog show arena? Very different, I would imagine, or maybe I'm wrong.
Well, I think the terrier group in particular, terriers are feisty. I think some of the exhibitors are feisty, and I say that in the nicest possible way. So I think, given my background with my grandparents and my upbringing and the sport, I was always drawn to terriers.
Okay. And you mentioned your grandparents a couple of times, so I'm assuming that they were like a massive inspiration to you.
Yeah, my grandfather died when I was quite young, but he was my mother's father. My dad's father was a boxing promoter and boxing trainer. So my eldest brother was a good boxer. My dad was a good boxer. So it was I was going to do one of the two, and I ended up doing both. So
okay, so it's in the genes.
I think so, yeah.
And then in the dog world, who has been your real inspiration that you maybe have worked with or seen or watched from afar over the years? Maybe someone that might be you working with now who's really inspired you to do well.
It's a real difficult question, but it's a important question, and there's been so many people that has touched my life in that regard. Gerard Morris was my main mentor, if you like, and I met so many people because of Gerard, both in this country and in America. The great Peter Green, who is a Welshman, lived just up the road from me in Neath, who went to America in the 50s, and Peter's, anybody listening to this will know Peter Green instantly. He's judged Crufts Best in Show. He's won Best in Show Crufts, judged it, judged the Garden, won the Garden. He's won Montgomery County more times than any other handler. And he made a living out of dogs in America. So, I became very friendly with Peter. In this country, Jeff Koresh, Michael Cord, great handlers of so many different breeds. So the pace of the dog would be different, the size of the dog, and just watching and learning. And some of them, the great Don Monroe in Kerry Blue Terriers, Rick Chasudian in America with Kerry Blue Terriers, they all took time. Harry O'Donoghue in Ireland, they all took time to give me some sort of advice at some time. But had it not been for Gerard Morris, I wouldn't have met any of those people.
So it's all about connection. So if there are any young breeders or show people that are watching this right now that are aspiring to be the next Phil Davies or whoever it is they would like to be more like, you're probably cringing as I say that, but you are an expert, Phil. Take it, receive it as a compliment. What would you say to those youngsters that are watching and they're wanting to make connections with the people that you've just discussed? How do they reach out and make those connections?
Well, we had someone in this country that I didn't mention there, and I did that on purpose, called Ernest, to his friends. His nickname was the Master, and he was a Yorkshireman, and very scary Yorkshireman. When I was first on the scene with the dogs and starting to sort of get the grips of the trimming and the handling, I was desperate to get in his good books and speak to him and get some tips of him, and he was never that forthcoming with giving advice. And then just one day I had a Kerry bitch that I'd won 9 reserve tickets with, and I went to a seminar, and Ernie was taking the seminar, and it was a Fox Terrier seminar actually, and Jeff Koresh was there. He'd remember this, and I was in a class of novices, and if you were in the novice class, you hadn't won a CC, and he stopped the class and said to me, "Son, I think you're in the wrong class." And I said, "No, I'm in the right class." He said, "You tell me." And in the audience were, group judges and, lots of the sort of the hierarchy of the terrier world were spectating. And he said, "You're in the wrong class, son." And I said, "No, I've never won a CC with this bitch. Never won a CC." No. He said, "Oh, I can't believe that." And it was only after that really took an interest in me and gave me some handling tips, trimming tips. He wasn't called the Master for no reason at all. He was the master of trimming and preparation. Very, very skillful. So I learned a lot from people like that, who took the time. So I would say to people, identify those people in whatever breed you decide to go into, and identify who you think is, a good handler. If it's a trim breed, somebody that can do a really good job trimming, and has kind hands and is kind to the dogs, and learn as much as you can from those people.
Yeah, 100%. And talking about kindness, you could obviously see, I've known you handle dogs and seen you with Chelsea in the past and now with Pixie, and you can see that you've got an amazing relationship with your dogs. You can see that they're more than just show dogs, they're your pets, and you can see that. It's so tell us a bit more about your relationship with Pixie. And she's a house dog, is she?
Pixie is a house dog.
Yeah.
Although she's, as was Chelsea, as was all my show dogs in Kerry Blues. They're all house dogs. People are thinking, oh, what is his house like if all those dogs are living in it? No, I mean, some of the dogs have passed on. So I only ever have 2 Kerrys at any one time, a male and a female,
Okay.
in my home. But Pixie's one of the strangest of them all with regard to, she won't come upstairs. She will, if I put a lead on her and walked upstairs, she will not come upstairs. And I can stand on the top of the stairs with a squeaky toy, and she will not, as much as she wants it and loves it, she just stands at the bottom of the stairs and barks at me. So all my dogs in the past have slept on my bed, I'm sorry to say.
Oh.
Bar for Pixie, she just won't come upstairs. She doesn't, for whatever reason, I don't know what it is, but she didn't like it. So
And you said earlier that you got her when she was 6 months old, right?
Well, she was a little bit older. The photograph was taken when she was 6 months old. She was probably about 9 months when I actually
So
got
maybe
her.
the previous owners, it was a no-go going upstairs, and she's not forgotten that.
Maybe, yeah, maybe it was instilled in her.
Yeah.
When she lived over in Belfast. But yeah, they are my pets, and I get lots of pleasure out of preparation. I do love the grooming side of it. I find it very therapeutic. There's a tad of an art to it. I've been lucky enough, like I said, to have met these people who were, at the top of the game. They were fantastic at what they did. And sometimes, Don Monroe, for example, he might giggle at this when he listens to it, but he didn't know he was teaching me, because he probably didn't want to teach anybody. He kept everything to himself. But I used to sit and watch Don trimming, and I'd like to think I trimmed something like Don used to trim. And for me, he was one of the best trimmers of a Kerry Blue, alongside Rick Chasudian, probably in the world. So we were lucky. I was lucky to have him in this country,
Yeah.
to watch, to learn from.
So talking a little bit about trimming, you mentioned before that Pixie was a little bit rough around the edges. How long did it take to get her from, being a little bit more unkept to this graceful, beautiful dog that is strolling around the arena at Crufts? How long does that take you?
Well, it took me a little bit longer than normal. I sort of got it in some sort of form where I was beginning to be happy with her. And then I had a dog that I was handling, a male dog that I was handling for somebody, and he was going to be going to America. And she came in season. She was around two years of age at this point, and it was the only opportunity I would have had to use this dog at stud, and that was the reason I got her, was to use this dog on her. So I decided to breed her, which I did.
So she's had puppies.
She had 6 puppies.
So hang on. As a woman, can I just say something here? So she had puppies, and then she got back into top form and did what she did at Crufts in March.
Yeah, she did.
Wow, my hat goes off to her. I have to say, having had 2 children, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, well, it's testament to her as an animal, and nutrition plays a big part of that as well. So yeah, combine the two and a lot of work, and I got her back in condition, and probably took me another 6 months, I would have thought, and then she was starting to look good, and I took her to a Fox Terrier show actually, just for the day out, and the person I mentioned earlier on, Gerard Morris, who had also seen her at National Terrier and didn't care much for her at National Terrier. He didn't tell me, but he didn't say anything. So I took it from that he didn't like her that much. He passed comment on her at the Fox Terrier show and said she looked fantastic. And I thought, yeah, she's ready to go to a show now.
Did you have many people saying to you that they didn't think she would be up to much, or were most people saying that she's a definite future Crufts champion, or were there a lot of naysayers talking in your ear?
Well, at National Terrier, when I got her that day, I showed her to a few people that I had a lot of time for: Don Monroe, Derek Smith, and some others, and yeah, they weren't too complimentary about her, I have to say. A couple of them thought that I was a bit mad for buying her. But, you know, we all see things differently. And yeah, I like to think I proved them wrong a little bit. And both Derek and Dom Monroe, who said, not too sure about this one, Phil, when they saw her later on at the show, when I got her in the form she deserved to be in, they both said, yeah, well, that's a different dog. So that pleased me as you know, two of my mentors that I have a lot of time for, saying that that's sometimes better than winning, you know.
A pat on the back, but I'm sure whilst they were maybe not as complimentary, was that hard for you to kind of stay focused on your own beliefs and values, or were you thinking, oh, maybe I'm wrong here? How did you block out those negative words and focus on what you thought you saw?
Well, at the time, they'd give me the paperwork. Do you know what? I didn't even ask how she was bred. I didn't know her breeding behind her at all. But when I saw her and I kept looking at her, I trimmed her a little bit on the day at National Terrier after judging. And I kept thinking, she reminds me of somebody. And when I look back, when I got the pedigree, got home and looked at the pedigree, she went back to my breeding. She was 3 generations back. There was a male dog that was a son of my big winning bitch that I won at Crufts with. This bitch I won at Crufts with, she was only best opposite to the eventual best in show winner, Torrance Scarf Michael. So she was a fantastic bit, and that's who she reminded me of. And I felt I can trim better now than I could then. So I'm really going to make this bitch look good. So it didn't really bother me. Because my intention was to breed from her, never to show her, to be honest with you. But as time got on, she looked better and better, and I thought this would be a waste of a real good dog if I don't show her. So I did.
So I guess what that shows you is you've got to be a bit flexible with life. What life throws at you, you got a dog you weren't thinking of doing. You were thinking of doing X with her, but actually as time went on, she progressively got better, and you had to change your plans for her. So it just shows you that what you think is going to happen maybe not. It could be better. In this case, it was, which is fantastic. And I have a final question for you before we go into what we call our quick fire round. I'll explain what that is in a moment. But a bit of a delicate one. You're in the Crufts Best in Show final. You don't win. What happens next? You know, do you walk off and you feel elated because you got in there, or do you walk off and you think, well, I'm a bit disappointed now? How do you deal with that? Up and down. 1 minute you're excited, you're there. Next minute you didn't win.
Well, I think when you come into this sport, and I do see it as a sport, dog showing, you know, you'll have ups and downs right the way through it. It's that sort of hobby, just like boxing, just like any sport. You know, there's good days and there's bad days. But for me, winning the Terrier group at Crufts, you know, the biggest and best dog show in the world, I was elated. It was it. It was what I wanted to do, and I'd done it. And at the time when we went, I didn't think about Best in Show. It just wasn't, you know, there until, of course, we didn't have much time to prepare for Best in Show, because it was on the same evening. But yeah, it was just, you know, try and get her back and calm her down, and then we set, and it only hits you when you stood there waiting in the arch to come out, and the presenter is saying, you know, from 20,000 something dogs, we're down to the last 7. And you think,
wow, okay.
You know, it's like, yeah, well, that is something for everybody. And do you know what? There were 7 fantastic dogs, some of the best dogs, trimmers, handlers in the world that I was competing with. So I wasn't disappointed. I'd love to win it, but I'd love to win it at some point. But
yeah, I've just checked that you haven't won it yet. You haven't won it yet.
No,
to put the word yet at the end.
No, and I don't know if I ever will win it. But you know, it's everybody. Anybody is in a sport of any kind. I think you've got to set your sights as high as you can. You know, and go for it.
Yeah, yeah. reach for the stars, hey?
Absolutely.
Okay, so thank you. I'm just going to ask you 5 quick questions, and the plan is that you've got to answer with as few words as possible. So, just keep it really short and sweet and try and think on your feet. So, which dog is your favourite best Crufts best in show Crufts champion in the past?
Tom Scarf, Michael.
Okay, right. What skill do you need the most to be a good dog handler?
Kind heart, kind hands.
Oh, that's nice to hear. What's the most important lesson working with dogs has taught you?
Be patient.
Patience and kindness, you see, it's what it's all about. What one thing does it take to be a champion at Crufts? Apart from patience and kindness.
You have to have an exceptional dog.
Okay. So you telling me I couldn't take my crossbreed then?
No.
In a word, Kelly, no. Has one of your dogs ever pooped in the show ring?
No.
Ah, well, good. So brilliant. Thank you so much for your time, Phil. I hope you and your family are all safe and well over there in Wales. Anything you would like to mention before we say goodbye?
No, I'd just like to wish everybody the best. I hope to see you soon at the shows, and stay safe.
Yeah, wonderful. Great. Thanks very much. Thanks, Phil.
Thank you, Kelly.
Bye.
All right, bye-bye.